You're thinking about going to college? Well, I have a better option for you. Why don't you just travel the world instead? It's cheaper and you're gonna learn a lot more. Let me add a little caveat onto that. Now, obviously you can go to college to learn a lot. I have a degree in biology. You could go and become a lawyer or a doctor, and certainly you're not going to be able to just learn that stuff secondhand while you're traveling around the world. But there is a lot more you can learn while traveling the world than what you could ever learn from a textbook or in a collegiate setting. But what I really mean when I say that you can either go to college or that you can travel the world is that you're going to be spending money either way. College is expensive. You think that traveling the world is expensive. It's really not. I've made many videos about that before. You can check them out. But I'm looking at some data right here, and it's showing me that between 2010 and 2020, the average 2-year college increased by 41.2%, and the average 4-year institution increased by 34.3% for a 4-year college degree. So what does that mean for you? It means that the price for college is significantly higher than it even was a decade ago, and from 2010 to 2000 it had already risen a lot. So the price of college keeps soaring. So when it comes to thinking about the prices of college, there's basically nothing you can do about that. Sure, you could get some scholarships or some loans to help pay for it, but loans are a really bad idea. You can just ask this guy who got crushed by a mountain of them without knowing what he was doing. Do you really want to add yourself to that statistic? It's something you need to think about. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying that there are other options out there, and traveling the world, at least for a few years, might be a really good option for you instead of just jumping into college without knowing exactly what you're going to do. Now granted, if you already know that you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a pediatrician, you have some very specific focus that you want to go to, and you know that you need to go to college for it, then fine, more power to you. Go enjoy that. Just make sure it's something you really, really want to do and that you are laser focused on. Otherwise, you may be wasting your time. Now, on the flip side of that, you do have some control over the cost of your travels. Now, if you want to go stay at all-inclusive resorts every single week, traveling around the world, yeah, your costs are going to skyrocket just like college. However, it's completely feasible to travel on a budget. You know, I've got lots of videos where you can move to different places around the world for a really low cost. There are ways to make money in other countries. There are ways to make money online as well. And so you can really control your cost of travel much more than you can control the cost of college tuition. Now, the second thing that I would say about either going to college or traveling the world is that a lot of people will say you should go to college to make friends, make a connection, things like this. And that's certainly going to happen. You can have your little pleasure island experience out in college if that's what you want. But remember that going to college and doing that is basically an identity being given to you. They're saying, you are a college student, you are studying this is who you are, you fit nicely into this little box that we have given to you. You're welcome. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly did that. I made some good friends in college. You know, I had some nice experiences there. But now that I've gotten to travel, I've realized that there's other ways to make friends and other ways to adapt a new identity for yourself. So when you're traveling, your identity isn't necessarily, I'm studying this and that's who I am. It's, I'm exploring the world and that's who I am. And you'll end up meeting people who think a lot like you, who also want to explore, and not just explore the world, but as you're traveling around, you realize that your explorations really become internalized because you'll have to meet a lot of your prejudices and you'll have to wash them away. You'll get exposed to things that otherwise might have scared you if you'd only heard about them on TV. But once you experience things in real life, you realize that you know, the world isn't scary. There's nothing to be afraid of traveling around, and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a new language. You're going to try a bunch of different new foods. You're going to meet people who are a lot smarter than you that are going to expose you to things that you never would have seen if you had stayed home and just studied at college. The third thing that I want to say about traveling the world or going to college is that there is a huge financial burden that you may be placing on yourself if you're going to college. If you're like me, where you're like, I don't really know what I want to study, my parents just kind of sent me to college and told me that was what I had to do, go get a degree, then I ended up spending way too much time there and I wasted way too much money doing something that wasn't really right for me. And that has left me with a mountain of student loans that, hey, if I had taken that much out in loans to go travel the world when I was 18, I don't know how long I could have traveled. I don't know how many businesses I could have attempted and then failed and then attempted again in a new one, but I could have done that a lot. And I'm sure that I would have learned how to build businesses that were actually functioning. I'm sure I would have tried a lot more jobs in other countries as well, because there's lots of ways to make money, and you can check that out right here, while you are traveling. You can work in the scuba industry, you can work as a teacher, you can work online, obviously. You know, I taught a summer camp in Vietnam. There's lots of things that you can do around the world that you might not have thought about. So really consider making money while traveling instead of going to college to try to make money later on so then you can travel. And the fourth and last thing I'll say about either traveling the world or going to college is that either way you're going to learn a lot of new and interesting skills. And that's usually the reason people want you to go to college, why they encourage you to do that, is that you're going to learn something, you're going to build on that, it's going to provide you income later on. And that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. You could go to college to do that, but I guarantee you that the same thing will happen if you just spend time traveling the world. You're going to learn a new language, you're going to learn to work online, you're going to learn new physical skills, you're going to learn new interpersonal skills as you try to communicate with people who don't necessarily speak your language or whatever. There are lots of things you can learn by traveling the world, and you'll grow in all these kinds of ways that you never would have expected. So what are your thoughts about either traveling the world or going to college? I really want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments, and we can talk about this more in later videos if it's something you're interested in.